So today I'll be doing a video discussing Fairy Tale Next Generation episode 1 and what you can expect from the first episode of Fairy Tale Next Generation. Now, I know I've been doing a lot of videos discussing the next generation of Fairy Tale, but that's just because we were getting so much news. We've been getting so much confirmation about Fairy Tale Next Generation. I just wanted to bring you guys all the news that we were getting. So this will be my last Next Generation video that I will be doing for a while, but without further ado, let's go and get to the video because there's a lot of things that the next generation will have for us, and whenever there is new news for Fairy Tale Next Generation, you can already bet that you can come back to this channel, subscribe for more news because I will always have it out. But without further ado, let's go and get to the video. Now, the main thing that they're going to show to start off the next generation is they're going to show the end of the 100-year quest. Now, they're not going to show the full 100-year quest because I do believe that they will put that in either an anime, they're going to animate the full 100-year quest, or they're going to make that into a movie, and that's going to be a whole separate thing. What I mean by the ending is that they're going to show the wish that was guaranteed to the wizards if they completed the 100-year quest, because we know that if they do complete the 100-year quest, Aleph Syria, the law dragon, he has granted them one wish that he will complete, and I don't think he's lying. I don't think he's using this as a way to deceive them. So I believe that this wish will have to do something with Aquarius, because the 100-year quest, it's already doing something big for Natsu. It helped him find his new older brother. It's probably going to help him figure out more stuff about Igneel and more dragons. So after putting Lucy and the gang through all of this stuff, I do believe that he will let Lucy wish to find Aquarius. That's if she wants to do that, because Lucy, she says she wants to still go out and find her, so maybe she'll turn that down. But I think the wish will have to do something with Aquarius, so we're going to start off the next generation with that, because that will then lead into Natsu and the gang going into the final time skip. And the reason why I'm saying it's the final time skip is because this is going to be the one when it jumps from a significant period of time, whereas we're going to see them go from their young, I guess you could say they were young adults because they're like 19, they're kind of young teenage years, and then they're going to go into being adults when they finally do have the start of the next generation. And I do believe that they're going to show the next generation kids when they are actually young too, similar to how they did with Natsu, Gray, and Erza, how they showed their past a lot. I do believe that's what they're going to start the first episode off with. They're going to introduce a lot of the next generation kids, because let's be honest, they're going to have to introduce a lot more people. But I can't wait until we do see that time jump. And like I said, the start of the episode, I don't think that it's going to be similar to the first episode of Fairy Tale, whereas we had to get introduced to the guild all over again, like, yo, this is what Fairy Tale is. No, I don't think we're going to have to go through any of that, like running around, none of that stuff. And I think that's going to be good, because that's going to be more time to introduce more characters that we're going to have to get used to, because the one thing that we don't want to happen is next generation to come and there's no characters that we're familiar with. So I do believe that with all the extra stuff, like them having to meet up and having to explain what Fairy Tale is, with that being cut out, it would give us a lot more time for character introductions. But I do believe that the first episode will also be action-packed, because if you think about it, the first episode for Fairy Tale, it had a lot of action in it. We saw that it had to deal with the whole brawl-like situation that was happening once the whole kidnapping situation happened, and I do believe that they will use this time to introduce a relationship between Nashi and Storm. And this will be good because some people, they're already saying if Nashi and Storm are going to be together, if they're going to ship them like Natsu and Lucy. I'm going to talk about that later on in the video, but I do believe that this will be a time for them to introduce that, because we saw that they introduced that similar to in the first episode of Fairy Tale when they had the action to introduce Natsu and Lucy coming together and all that stuff. So I do believe that they'll use that to bring together Nashi and Storm, similar to how they did with Natsu and Lucy. And this will be the main thing that I'm excited to see is how they introduce the plot and how they introduce the character roles, because we all remember the iconic scene of Natsu basically starting his search for looking for Igneel in the town that Lucy was in. And we know that Nashi, she probably won't have a goal where she's looking for a huge dragon or something. I don't think she's gonna have anything like that. So I do believe that she will have to, the Hiro Mashima or whoever is going to write it, they will have to figure out a whole new way to introduce the plot, and they won't have to make it similar to Fairy Tail. And I think that is going to be one of the most interesting things to see. Seeing how they'll have to start the plot differently from Natsu is going to be something that I can't wait to see. And a lot of people, including myself, do believe that there will be a huge traumatic event in the first episode, similar to how there was with Fairy Tail, obviously the whole kidnapping of Lucy. And a lot of people believe that it will be the kidnapping of Nachi this time, but it won't be something on a scale where it was like Lucy wasn't really in danger, even though she was, because had Natsu not came there and saved her, then she probably would have ended up being sold off somewhere. I don't know, but I do believe that Nashi, she will have to go through one of these events similar to how Natsu did, and I can't wait to see how it's going to develop her character, because we're going to see firsthand that because she's obviously the main character, and looks like she's going to be like the first main character, unlike how Lucy was the second main character to Natsu. I think that she's going to be the first one, and I do believe that once we do see this, it will develop her character even more. So all this stuff will be hyped up, and I can't wait to see all this stuff in the first episode of Fairy Tail Next Generation. But to go along with the tragic events, the most tragic event that we'll see in the Next Generation is Erza and Jellal will not be confirmed, and this is going to be very tragic just because, number one, we all been waiting to see this. This is one of the biggest pairings in the series, and the fact that it's not going to be confirmed, that is spooky in of itself. But then number two is that we're going to get robbed of seeing one of the kids of the Next Generation, because this would have been one of the perfect characters to use for hybrid magic, because hybrid magic is something that we've been wanting to see for so long, and the fact that they're not going to have a kid now makes us not going to be able to see Erza's armor mixed with Jallal's Grand Chariot magic, all that stuff. It just would have been super overpowered. So that is going to be one of the biggest tragic events in the series, and it'll make us at least look at them and think, okay, will they ever get together in the Next Generation series? Because hey, just because they won't get together at the end of the Fairy Tail series doesn't mean that there's not a chance for a Next Generation series. So I do believe that Erza and Jellal not being together will be one of the biggest tragic events in the series, because he's going to give us a lot of the pairings that we already want to see. But I do think that Hiro Mashima, the king of trolls, he will actually highlight Erza and Jellal not being together. And we even seen in the recent chapter of Fairy Tail 100-Year Quest, Erza, it kind of did point out that she's never really had any like love life or anything. So I think that was a hint for Hiro Mashima to show us that she will actually end up being alone. Therefore, she'll be the only character, or at least one of the only characters, that didn't end up having somebody for the Next Generation. That will be a huge shocking twist, because we all see that Erza, she was like a big character, like a big sister character, and since the Next Generation won't have that is something that we can look out for. That's going to change the plot hugely from the main story of Fairy Tail. So a lot of people, they're going to be upset that Erza and Jellal didn't have a kid. Trust me, I'm going to be upset too, but I do think that it is going to be better for the story, just because it's going to make it drastically different. Not saying that Erza still won't be involved, but they won't have that Erza big sister like character in the story if Jellal and Erza actually do not end up having kids. And I know, speaking of Erza, a lot of people, they've been asking, will the adults be in the Next Generation? And to be honest, there are a lot of pros and cons. To be honest, there are some pros, whereas we'll be able to see the adult version of the main cast of characters, because let's be honest, we all would have seen adult Natsu, Lucy, Gray, Erza, like we all would have seen them grown up. So I do think that will be hype if we do get to see them. And we know that a lot of them will serve as teachers for the Next Generation. Like, just imagine if Natsu ends up teaching the next Dragon Slayers, or even Gajio, if he teaches them, Gray could teach some Devil Slayers. Like, there's a lot of things that the Fairy Tail cast can teach to the Next Generation. So I do think that if they are in the series, they can serve as teachers, and we could see the moment for some of the guild members to become either S-rank mages, or to see them become the new guild masters, because we know that there's a lot of candidates for the guild masters. And I do think that if we do get to see the adults in the new series, we'll be able to see which one of them became the new guild master, and we'll be able to see a new batch of S-rank mages, because we know that S-rank mages, that's always been one of the hype points for the Fairy Tail guild. So if the old people are actually in there, I do believe that will be a good way to show off and hype up the S rank mages again. However, there are some cons that come with the adults returning too, and that could be, number one, they could end up getting way more screen time. And this is probably the biggest con, because we already know that Natsu, Lucy, Gray, Erza, all of these guys, Gagio, they're our favorites. And I'm gonna be honest, it will be hard to let go of these characters. Like, when they do, especially when they're older, and when they do actually get showed on the screen, they might end up actually becoming fan favorites of the next generation, and it might take away from developing the new generation characters, because we know Hiro Mashima, he does like to please the fans. He's one of the mangakas that actually does listen to his fans' critiques like heavily, and I do think that if they do actually have the adults in the series, it can take away from some of the screen time, and you would not want that to happen. So I do not think, or I do not hope that if the adults are in there, that they would end up taking away from the screen time. And some people think they would be too overpowered for the story, and I could see this one too, because we see where Natsu is heading in terms of powers right now. Like, Natsu, he's going to be a freak of nature, so him in the next generation, people would be like, oh, it would kind of take away like the threat. I could see why people would think that, but at the same time, I do believe they'll introduce somebody stronger than Natsu, because I think that Hiro Mashima, he doesn't really have a problem when it comes to introducing characters that are strong, because even now he's introduced characters that were stronger than Act and Logia, but at the same time he's introduced somebody who is possibly even stronger than those characters, being the Holy Pentadrakes and Toka. So I really don't have too much doubt in Hiro Mashima when it comes to him developing the story when it comes to strength and power wise. And me personally, I do believe that they should be in the next generation. I don't hope that they're a part of the main story. Like, I don't hope that Natsu's the main character again. No. But if he did play a role like a Guildarts, I think that would be amazing, and I think that would be a perfect way to get to see the adults fully develop, but at the same time they will be able to train the kids. Sadly, the main villains will not be introduced in the main episode of Fairy Tail, and I think this is a no-brainer, because number one, Zeref wasn't even nowhere hinted at in the first episode of Fairy Tail, but this is also going to be because the first episode of Fairy Tail Next Generation will be very fan service like. We'll be getting introduced to Nashi, Storm, all of the new Next Generation people, so there will be no time for the villains to be introduced, even though I cannot wait to see what will be the new threat in the new Next Generation series. Comment what you guys think down below about who you guys think will be the new villains, because I want to see you guys' suggestions. But that's one of the biggest things about Fairy Tail Next Generation, is that we will not be able to see any of the villains. And by the end of the first episode, I know a lot of people will be asking, how many main characters will we have? Because this is one of the biggest things when it comes to the Fairy Tail series. Not just Fairy Tail, but Hiro Mashima series. Hiro Mashima is known for having multiple main characters, and it's looking like Nashi Dragneel may be the main character of the series, and I mean like solo main character act. Now, in the picture that Hiro Mashima did release on Twitter, he did release a picture of Nashi and Storm, but some people, you could call him Storm, but the name hasn't been confirmed yet. It's kind of still like a little fed thing. I just got used to calling him Storm, but of Nashi and Gray's son, I do think that was a hint at them actually being a dual main cast of characters, just because that's what Hiro Mashima was used to. But if he wants to take a different route, he could make Nashi Dragneel the solo main character, and the reason why I think that he can do that is because he made it a female Natsu, basically, because we're seeing that she's going to be a fire dragon slayer similar to Natsu. She resembles Natsu a lot, so if she does actually act like Natsu, but the fact that she is obviously Lucy's daughter, and she's going to have some of Lucy's qualities, I think that would be a good way for Hiro Mashima to finally have a series when he just has one main character. So that will be one of the biggest shockers to see if Hiro Mashima decides to go with either two main characters in Nashi and in Gray's Child, or will he only go with one in Nashi. But overall, that's basically it for this little video discussing the first episode of Fairy Tail Next Generation and what you guys can expect to see from it. I want to know, what are you guys most excited for when it comes to the Fairy Tail Next Generation? Because Fairy Tail, I definitely do think that it has a lot of more years to go. In the Next Generation, it has a lot of hype things about it, and I can't wait till it finally comes. Comment what you guys see down below. Subscribe if you haven't. Peace out.